Thank you so much for giving me another opportunity to make a presentation. As far as I remember, this is the second presentation. One presentation was made probably 2 months ago, if I recall very well. And it was on customer relationship management. But today I've brought another presentation that is in line with issues of entrepreneurship development in least developed countries. Having observed the snail pace, or what I would call a slow pace at which entrepreneurship development is taking, one can easily hypothesize that perhaps lack of business education amongst the majority of the citizens could be something that could be attributed to that slow progress. So that's why, since that observation, I've been so keen to observe who does what business and whether or not they have the chance to learn business formally or informally, either in school as a program of study or informally in form of short courses or other vocational, training. So it is based on that observation and a few desk research that I'm making this particular presentation. In line with which is within the context of least developed economies, with Malawi being a case. However, there will also be a link to other countries like Rwanda, Nigeria, as a few examples will be drawn from there. So, in short, we would say that entrepreneurship development is vital for economic growth and sustainability. You can be mindful of the fact that the least developed economies are grappling around with the economic growth, because each and every country realizes that the more it grows economically, the better it will be for so many areas. Critical to it is the job creation, because majority of the youth having completed the school do not have where to go in terms of employment, and there's a huge percentage of them that risk a full lifetime of unemployment. Now, you all know that unemployment will actually be a key driver of poverty, hopelessness, and desperation. So then everyone is preaching about, oh, why don't we do businesses? Oh, you have become entrepreneurs. But despite many messages to that effect, you see so little, especially that which brings an impact. They were talking about businesses that start and so that those that sustain and eventually grow to a level that they can even transition from being small businesses to actually medium enterprises, so eventually to large enterprises, so that they could actually be able to create jobs and drive economy through tax payment and even contribute to income of the country through exports. So, as we all know, that entrepreneurship drives jobs, innovation, and it also helps in poverty alleviation. But with it, with a knowledge gap on business education, it appears that strides are taking so slow to be made. So, business education has become a case in point because it equips individuals with skills, mindset, and knowledge for business success. Hence, the need for us to look at this issue this morning. I'll begin to give you a brief background, which is basically presenting a brief snapshot of the status quo of business education in Malawi. I would say approximately, roughly 80% of the population lack access to, I would say, business education, not necessarily education per se, but business education. Others will have other education of some sort, but business education has seemingly become something for the few, particularly only those that have accessed university education, which is basically a small percentage of the population, and perhaps those that have attempted tertiary education through vocational schools like technical colleges. They basically have had a chance also to engage in business education. If you look at this, you see that this divide is even much wider when you look at rural versus urban. Rural areas suffer from scarce education resource because not specialized in those areas. And unfortunately, if there are few that come from the rural areas that come to acquire business education, upon completion, they hardly go back to the rural areas. They stay around in town. And studies have shown it that what I'm talking about is actually the current status quo. So there are institutions, of course, that offer business education at tertiary level. There is MUBAS and other private institutions like DMI, St. John the Baptist University, and several other private universities have actually also joined the bandwagon of institutions that offer business education. If you look around the situation, despite the additional players like private institutions, you see that also concentrated in the urban areas. So you find that the current education infrastructure is primarily within the urban population, and mass majority of aspiring entrepreneurs are left out. What's the consequence of such situation? You see, we are not able to maximize the entrepreneurship potential that people have. Now, as a result, you see low levels of innovation, you see high level of business failure, and this translates into constrained economic growth, which defeats the entire national agenda of economic growth, especially as we aspire towards the national goal of 2063, where we envision Malawi to be pretty much high income, economy with the largest number of middle class. Now, yes, that's the economic impact. With the low limited access to business education, you also see so many things happening on the market, such as informal businesses rather than formal. So we all see the consequences of informal businesses. Informal businesses hardly get access. Informal businesses hardly have records, hardly have access to financial, access like loans, which constrain the ability to grow. Okay. It also undermines market integrity and hinders the sustainable development. So there's a need for action, and this action requires that we must engage in business education. Actually, I'm trying to argue that it's an important and it's a must-do thing. So for us to understand it, let's look at the problem is in the context of problem statement. So I'll just go ahead and read it basically word to say, despite the critical role of entrepreneurship in driving economic growth and alleviating poverty in least developed countries, such as Malawi, access to business education remains significantly low. It means significantly limited. So what you see is that with such a situation, this is what you see. Without expanded access to business education, Malawi risks perpetuating cycle of poverty and economic stagnation. A lack of entrepreneurial skills and knowledge among the population will lead to high business failure rate, limited innovation, reduced competitiveness in the global market. Maybe just to highlight on that particular point, you can even see that even as a country, when you talk about exports, we're basically just exporting the raw agriculture produce, but also in small quantities. Yet there are numerous opportunities of exports that require added value that we have ventured in. And one major limitation of such has been lack of business education. Especially when you consider that when you engage into export market, much of what is also involved there requires the understanding of international markets, such as macro-environmental factors of international market, political factors, economic factors, social and technological. In the absence of business education, you hardly have any idea on what to do. So what are we saying? Furthermore, the persistence of informal business outside regulatory framework undermines market integrity and hinders sustainable growth. So then we are building a case. It is very important for us to seriously engage in the issue of business education. So we want to now define what business education is. That's one thing that we like to do. So in that case, what is business education? We can look at business education as what I would call, in simple language, it's a comprehensive field of knowledge. Okay, it's a comprehensive field. It covers things like finance, marketing, operations, management, and entrepreneurship. There could also be other add-ins, especially these days. You might talk about the other add-ins, procurement, and also is also part and parcel of business education. To some extent, in information technology, IT becomes part and parcel of business education. The core ones I've mentioned are the ones I've mentioned above. These are very important because once one acquires business education, they are able to understand theoretical and they're able to acquire theoretical and practical skills. For those that want to start business, but not only those start business, but also those that are operating businesses. But once business start, and as business grow, it requires certain skills. So lack of business education enough it makes one be incapacitated to manage their own business as it grows. So we see that based on that, we are actually saying it will be very important and imperative for all to engage in business education because of various reasons. I'll look at key ones, probably about three, which the first one is, yes, we need business education. We're saying an argument. Yes, we need business education. It must be all efforts required for us to engage in business education because it improves entrepreneurial skills such as development, knowledge acquisition. When you engage in business education, you are going to be trained in financial management, marketing, operations, strategic planning. Okay. You can see that National Economic Empowerment Fund, which provides small loans for businesses to the rural masses, has realized that those that do not have even any basic business knowledge have had time even to manage their business to an extent they fail to repay the loans. As a result, they have begun to offer at a basic level financial literacy and business management training to potential borrowers. Yeah. If you do business knowledge, you acquire knowledge. You have theoretical knowledge that helps you to understand market dynamics and economic principles. For example, when market changes, economic changes, such as a recent devaluation that this country has had experienced a few months ago, shows that for those that didn't have business education, it would be very difficult for them to make necessary adaptation to the changing landscape. For those that have business education, they can be able to adapt accordingly and ensure that the business continues to thrive. Yeah. So secondly, business education develops an entrepreneurial mindset and creativity. You will see that because of business education, one's mindset is developed. Through that education, one is able to engage in critical thinking. One is able to engage in creativity and risk-taking. A good example would be Youth Entrepreneurship Development Program, YEDEP. It offers hands-on training and mentorship. Of course, there are limited opportunities, but with such kind of hands-on training, people are able to critically analyze the issues. They become so creative, and they engage in innovation and they take necessary risks that enable grow their business. It also fosters creativity. It fosters creativity. Creativity promotes innovative thinking through interdisciplinary learning and problem solving. We have an example of people like William Kamkwamba, he came up with a windmill. And if you ask him the question, he said he was visiting the library oftentimes. Despite the fact that he was able to access very old published books, but the knowledge that he got from those books enabled him to come up with a creative product like a windmill. It only alludes to the fact that it's very important for us to ensure that we enhance the situation. Third, and final reason why business education is important is that through business education, you'll be able to have structured markets. And structured markets are very important and very beneficial. You know, you'll have formalized businesses where businesses will move from informal formality. There will be legal recognition of businesses. So for the benefits will be if more and more businesses will be registered, they will be able to have access to credit, and they will also have access to market opportunities. For example, Malawi Entrepreneurship Development Fund educates entrepreneurs formalizing businesses and its many benefits. Even Malawi Revenue Authority also plays a role in encouraging businesses to register, become formal. And suppliers, such as the government, always emphasize that you cannot supply anything to government if your business is not formalized. So those that understand business education are the ones that end up going towards formalizing their market. It also helps you to understand the market linkages under structured market. You'll be able to understand market linkages, where you'll be able to know in a business environment, you can compete by collaboration, where you can network with other businesses, you can network with suppliers, and also you can collaborate with customers. Without business education, you will not be able to understand such things. And you'll see that when you are engaged in business education, you will also be able to seriously engage in what I would consider to be regulatory compliance. That's what will happen the most. You will be able to seriously be able to look into always wanting to comply regulations, if I may put it that way. Regulatory compliance will be one critical area that you will seriously look into. For example, you will be able to know business law. So business law will enable you to know what action to take when and why. You also be able to learn business ethics. And business ethics on its own, if you practice it properly, it will enhance your ability to be able to act with integrity, therefore build trust amongst yourself and customers and other stakeholders, which is going to be a very strong basis for your business growth. It also helps you to engage seriously into compliance, and this is going to be able to reduce risk on your part. You will hardly be able to get, litigations. And at the end of the day, it will be market integrity. There are some unique examples from Africa and from Malawi, where other players engaged in business education. Example, in Rwanda. Okay. What you see in countries like Rwanda, you see an institute called Akila Institute for Women Empowerment through Business Education. This organization has helped seriously businesses to boom. Because of the trainings that they engage, businesses have grown beyond recognition. They've grown beyond recognition. I'm trying to think about maybe any specific example. Yeah, I would say, yeah, I'm looking at Rwanda Institute. Graduates from the Akila have launched businesses in various sectors. And this has contributed to economic growth and social change. And this initiative shows the potential of business education to drive entrepreneurship and even gender equality in Africa. You have another example in Nigeria. In Nigeria, there's an institution called Enterprise Development Center at Panati University. It provides comprehensive training for entrepreneurs. Now, this Enterprise Development Center has supported thousands of entrepreneurs in developing sustainable businesses. And this demonstrates the importance of business education in fostering entrepreneurship ecosystem. We can now come home to Malawi. You see that there could be some examples, but I'll just sample a few. And my wish is if we can do more in terms of business education, we can have more of this. I will sample an example of exports. Malawi Mangoes. Malawi Mangoes is a company that saw an opportunity. Because of business education, they were able to see an opportunity. Initially, they had mangoes in Malawi, which were just, they would grow and ripe. Few of them would be consumed, but majority of them would just be wasted. But founder Camille and Jonathan Jacobs saw this opportunity, and because they had business education, they were able to exemplify the transformative impact of business education through the establishment of an agribusiness called Malawi Mangoes, which currently exports mangoes and bananas. You can see their education and experience has enabled them to navigate the complexity of the agriculture sector, thereby creating jobs and contributing to the country's export economy. You can also see in Mzuzu, there's an entrepreneurship hub. It provides training and support local entrepreneurs. And the hub program focuses on business development, innovation, and market access. Currently, it continues to help scale businesses and create economic opportunities in the region. So, what are we saying? Having reached this point, we are saying business education, as evidenced by these facts that I've presented here, business education plays a crucial role in entrepreneurship development in least developed countries like Malawi. It improves entrepreneurship skills and knowledge. It fosters entrepreneurship mindset and creativity, and leads to the creation of structured markets. However, as stated earlier on, access to business education in Malawi is currently limited to those in specialized institutions, leaving many professionals and existing business owners without necessary skills and knowledge. So to fully harness the potential of entrepreneurship for economic growth, it is imperative to expand business education to everyone in Malawi. And this includes integrating business education into general education curricula, offering professional development programs, and making educational resource more accessible through online platforms and community-based initiatives. By doing so, Malawi can unlock the entrepreneurship potential of its people, create sustainable business, and build resilience. Yes. Right. So having this point, I would like to find out if there are any questions or comments before we wind up.
Thank you so much for your presentation. And we have 3 questions from participants in the Zoom chat, sir. This is visible from your side.
There's some questions?
Yeah. 3 questions.
So are they from okay, what's the question?
Yeah, we have first question from Mr. Abdul. What are the key challenges What are the key challenges faced in implementing effective business education program in Malawi? And how can this program be tailored to better support entrepreneurial development in the context of a least developed country? Thank you.
Okay, can you repeat the question? You were breaking when you were reading the question. You were breaking. Can you repeat the question, please?
Okay. What are the key challenges? I'm sorry. What are the key challenges in implementing effective business education program in Malawi? And how can this program be tailored to better support entrepreneurs development in the context of a least developed country? Thank you.
Right. I would say that challenges in enhancing business education include the first and foremost, I would say, mindset. Yeah. There has always been a belief that because there have been other businesses that have succeeded and the business owners have had no business education, formal or informal, there has always been a feeling of delinking business success with the need to educate business people. Yeah. And at the same time, it has actually, this education has been limited to offering a qualification that enables one to get employment. So, for example, one goes to university and studies Bachelor of Business Administration or accounting or any other business-related program with the sole purpose of joining a formal sector, and in most cases, even maybe government, NGO, where in fact, once they join, they don't even engage in any actual business hands-on. They engage in other activities that are contrary to what they learned in school. So applicability of that knowledge on the ground is almost not there. So it is, and thirdly, I would say, one can go into a full-fledged formal system from primary, secondary, university, and if they're not taking any business education, not even have a module, maybe not even form of elective, to just understand the basics of business. So one goes all the way and acquire, even in some cases, a PhD in their field of study. But in that whole journey, no even any hint of business, except maybe an orientation of 1 or 2 weeks at some point. So you will see that that has created a huge gap. This individual who could be a medical doctor, could be an agriculturist or an educationist, highly educated in their field, but lacks business education, having gone through a successful career, might need to retire their home employment, and the only option available is to engage in entrepreneurship, which they lack knowledge of, having worked in organization for 30, 40, sometimes 45 years. You'll see that the whole mindset is a huge obstacle. So what I would say, first and foremost, if we are to foster this culture, is mindset change, where when the mindset changes, then resources will be deployed to ensure that business education becomes something for everybody else, not only for specialized people who are doing business. Yeah. And if that case comes out with a few success stories cited, for example, one that of Malawi mangoes, if you have got 3, 4, or 5 cases cited, you see that ultimately Malawi can become an example of the benefits of business education, and this example can lead to other countries emulating it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question, what specific aspect of business education saw the most promise in fostering entrepreneurial development in Malawi? And how can this be expanded or improved to maximize their impact? This question from Ms. Kinan. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know, as you are speaking, you're not as clear. You're breaking off. You're not as very clear and precise. So I'm missing some of the word. Can you repeat the question? Sorry for that.
Yeah. What specific aspect of business education have saw the most promise in fostering entrepreneurial development in Malawi? And how can this be expanded or improved to maximize their impact? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Key aspects of business education should be those that are to do with the managing business environment. That's one of the critical. Decision analysis. It's also another critical one. Understanding the environment to guide the decision. So decision analysis, one has to be able to analyze their decision using data analytical skills, so that we move away from the idea of just coming up with emotional decisions for business. There have been so many successful entrepreneurs in the past whose business empires have collapsed purely based on poor decisions that were made without any evidence. There was no analysis of environment. There was no analysis of the decision that they had intended to make. Just woke up one day and decided to change their investment to something else, which ultimately made them to go into an industry that is declining, or go into an industry that has got a lot of bottlenecks, especially in terms of the supply side or sometimes the distribution side. So you'll see that environmental business aspect of business environment, decision analysis, and also accounting and finance and marketing and sales and supply chain. These are very critical aspects. Just by understanding the supply chain component, one can understand the input side and the output side of the business, particularly the where you get the entire chain of your business for it to be successful. Because others get into a business when they don't understand the entire supply chain of the business. So in the process, they get into bottlenecks and the business up also. So that aspect, environmental analysis, decision analysis, accounting and finance, marketing and sales, and supply chain. I think these are very critical. These are very critical. So once one understands this, one will be able to know how to maneuver around in the business environment and make necessary adjustments to the business survive. And once that happens, such of their business will become an example. And that example is going to be what others are going to be emulating the local and also Africa level. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question from Ms. Wahyu. Ms. Wahyu, what role does government policy play in promoting business education for entrepreneurial development in Malawi? Thank you.
Okay, repeat the question again.
What role does government policy play in promoting business education for entrepreneurial development in Malawi?
Yeah, government policy can play a very central role. Currently, the education policy has so little to do with the specific areas of business education. Education policy currently drives more towards the increasing literacy levels and the increasing access to education. That's what you see more in terms of education policy. Access and the literacy, numeracy, and that people will be able to acquire skills and get employed. So there is a need for a deliberate policy where there must be an integration of the education ministry with the other players, private or public, and within the public, integration with the maybe Ministry of Trade and Industry can be very vital, because by understanding the dynamics and the things that goes around that Ministry of Trade and Industry, that can expose gaps which the entire education system has in terms of business education. And also, you realize that they're also having an interface with the industry, Malawi industry education institution linkage, the universities or even the ministry itself. The linkage, if it can be strengthened, it can reveal gaps that exist in terms of business education by showing the skills that are often missed out in institutions of higher learning, purely on the basis that programs are designed without any thinking of need for graduates to respond to markets. Once we begin to think about markets and how to maneuver around and survive in markets, whether you are employed in private or public, whether you're doing your own business, but for your own survival, you must understand how to respond to markets. We're going to enhance the situation. And this requires deliberate policy by government, which can ultimately be enforced by it and supported by all other key stakeholders, including even the donor community. because as a poor country, Malawi also heavily depends on donors, who in most cases also have a focus on maybe poverty eradication, maybe food security, maybe health, but that is not done within the context of markets. In most cases, it's donations that come in, and then we use the money, and then we solve the problems. And unfortunately, then it doesn't become sustainable, because at the end of the day, once we solve the problem, we don't solve the problem, we are also looking back to get additional support, move on. But when we have a business education, and when we all understand that we have a responsibility to make money and generate it locally and internationally for us to solve our own problems, that policy direction can be enhanced and supported. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation, Mr. Madalitso. Yeah, before I close this event, for our participant, please open your camera. I will take a picture on the count of 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, another one, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for your information. Finally, we come to the end of this sitting lecture today. We would like to thank you for Mr. Madalitso for the wonderful information and sharing your knowledge. We hope this information will be beneficial for all participants. At least we hope to have more collaboration in the future with them ESTJ and the Vocational University Malawi. The visiting lecture for today and here. We hope to see you soon. Thank you and have a nice day. Thank you so much for Mr. Madalitso. Goodbye.